are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, these days, company CEOs have to be nimble. One day you're remote, one day you're in office, sometimes you're hybrid. COVID keeps changing, and so the leadership rules keep changing. To talk about that today, Dr. Cindy Wahler, she is a psychologist. Thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely thrilled to be here and honored to be here, Jeff. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, and I know you work with companies all over the planet. You have to be talking to leaders about how to manage a remote team because the skill set is different, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you're right. And so the true leaders have really shown up very well during this pandemic, and that as a leader, you've had to be agile. You had to find very creative ways to show you value your employees and that you recognize their efforts that they're doing, because you can't just walk down the hall or poke into the office to have that conversation. So you have to have a more concerted effort in terms of communicating with employees.
I know transparency is important, and in the early days of the pandemic, we were put in the same position. And sometimes you say to the employee, "Hey, we don't know. You know, we're kind of navigating this alongside you." And it's important to be transparent, isn't it?
Absolutely. And leaders who actually are able to show vulnerability, to be honest, don't have the answers, earn tremendous amount of credibility, because employees recognize that they're not invincible, that their leaders don't have all the answers. And you suggest, Jeff, as we go along, new science data changes the circumstances. And so you do win loyalty and followership when you show that we're working on this together as a team, and I as a leader need to turn to employees to help with that support.
Yes, and you wrote a book called 20 Effective Habits for Mastery at Work, and I believe you wrote this pre-pandemic, but I would suggest that it's even more relevant today.
Yes, it came out last February, so February 2021, and it is relevant in that it is around how to communicate with your employees, how to influence, how to impact, how to deal with change, and really be able to bring out the best in yourself as a leader and your team too. So it is relevant, and it is a very practical-based book.
Give us one little nugget from the book. I don't want to steal the thunder of actually having people go out there and buy it, but give us one nugget.
For sure. So one of the things that I talk about has been controversial is self-promotion, and that we, historically believe that our work speaks for itself, that if we do great work, we'll be promoted and we'll be noticed. And I think that isn't only partly true. There are a lot of talented people, a lot of smart people, but you also have to be able to self-promote, which means surround yourself with important decision makers, influencers within the organization, and make sure that you're visible. And I think there's a difference between being egocentric versus having a humble level of confidence, is what I call it. So to be able to feel good and proud of what you've done and make sure that others know that.
And I know that you go around the globe speaking, and one of your topics, we've got some pictures of you speaking, one of your topics is about the imposter syndrome. Explain that.
So a lot of us actually, despite our objective accomplishments and accolades, carry around feelings of self-doubt, that we're not smart enough, we're not bright enough, there's more compelling people out there. And when we do that, we diminish ourselves, and we actually probably take away from our achievements. And so when imposter syndrome is all about recognizing, first of all, that everybody, approximately 70% of the population at any given time, is going to experience imposter syndrome. And the idea is that we need to stop comparing ourselves to others and really look at the facts that support our achievements, because comparing yourself to others is a losing proposition. And organizations are not benevolent. You are there because you're adding value. And if you're adding value, then you deserve to have a seat at that table.
And I think it's more important than ever because of the Great Resignation. If you look at why all of these very talented employees are leaving, often it comes back to a bad boss. So the information in your book is absolutely critical.
So, so it may be a bad boss or maybe just absolutely not being recognized. And so it is right now absolutely a buyer's market, and employees, although they may be well compensated financially, are looking to be able to believe that they're adding value, have a profile, and making a difference. And they need, as you suggest, a boss or peers that recognize that and make them feel good. And one of the things that organizations do, which I think is probably not the best timing, is that they'll conduct exit interviews. And what I would suggest is that organizations need to be conducting stay interviews. So what is it that makes you happy on the job? What is it that you need? How can we make life better for you? And to be able to adjust and modify with a prescription that's different for each employee's needs.
Well, you're a frequent guest on podcasts around the globe, but you also have your own podcast. We're going to show your podcast page off of your website. I'm impressed with the variety of topics that you speak about. How do you come up with the topics that you do podcasts on?
That's a great question. So I'm actually fed my material from my clients themselves. So there are the challenges that clients need to deal with, what it may be difficult stakeholders, how to bring alignment within the organization, how to sell a particular product, how to influence, how to deal with unexpected obstacles. So they are the ones that actually come up with the material that then I can speak on. And it's why I wrote the book, because I'm grateful and thankful to my clients who taught me how to be great leaders and how to differentiate stars from non-performers.
We only have about a minute left, and we're still obviously in the throes of Omicron, which seems to change the rules every day. I mean, if you listen to Dr. Fauci, we're saying this one day and we're saying this the next day. How do bosses navigate the changing definition of COVID and a safe workplace?
Terrific question. I think what they do is that they qualify it by saying exactly what you just said, Jeff, that at this particular time, here's the best data we have, and we're going to go on this data, but that it is fluid, and that we're asking that you be able, as employees or as an organization, to be able to change and adapt with us, even though that's stressful, because as we get new intelligence, that actually helps shape our communication, our policies, our processes around talent, and around, as you say, keeping the workplace safe.
Outstanding. Dr. Cindy Wahler, we're going to end by putting up your website, which is very easy. CindyWahler.com is the website. Go to there and you can order her book and get more information about her as a speaker and a coach. Dr. Wahler, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was a pleasure, Jeff.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.